Our next speaker is Joanna Michelson. Title of her talk, Principal as the Turning Point.
Okay. All right, I want you all to imagine you're 15 years old and you're sitting in your high school English class, okay? And you're reading a book, let's say The Lord of the Flies, and you're taking notes, okay? And maybe you're looking for symbols, maybe you're thinking about theme, maybe you're flipping through a book of criticism, maybe you're thinking about lunch. And all of a sudden someone comes up to you and says, show me a part of your learning that's hard for you today, and then show me what you did about it. And you look up startled and you see not your teacher, but your principal standing there and asking you these questions. I bet most of us can remember our high school English teachers. How many of us can remember our high school principals? Maybe we remember a trip to the principal's office, or if you're like me, you probably don't remember talking to any of your principals you had over the years about your learning. And yet, this scene of principals getting close to students and their learning experiences has become a way of working for us at the Center for Educational Leadership, or CEL. It's no surprise that we can remember vividly teachers we had growing up. As we know, teachers are the #1 in-school factor influencing student achievement. But how many of us know that principals are the second most important in-school factor? CEL is a leadership organization, so we spend a lot of time thinking about what the research says are those actions that principals can take that matter most to influence what happens for students in the classroom. As an organization, we're guided by a vision of schools working to set transformed students loose into limitless futures. We know that to do that, schools need to create conditions where everyone, teachers, students, and principals, learn in rigorous cultures of teaching, leading, and learning. But how do they do that? What are those actions that principals can take? This image on the slide and that story about the English class actually took place in Blaine, Washington, a small rural district on the Canadian border. Blaine, like many districts, struggles with levels of student engagement and also some struggles in math and literacy. And Blaine is a district that's investing in the power of the principal to create conditions for teachers to learn in rigorous new ways so that students can learn in rigorous new ways. CEL has been partnering with Blaine for almost 5 years. And I'm going to just share with you 3 of the things that we're learning through that partnership and other partnerships about those actions that matter most that principals can take. Number 1, it starts with a vision for student learning. And you can't skip that step. And it's not as simple as getting some lofty words on a page. It's really about engaging everyone in the system in thinking about what students can do and how you want them to be learning in your system. Everyone does better when there's a vision for student learning really guiding the work and learning of the day. So to do that, we ask principals to think hard about what they want for students, what the communities want for students, and what students want for themselves. And those principals in Blaine, they did that, and they read research in the content areas, they studied frameworks, they visited classrooms, and they talked to teachers. And they decided that student agency is a critical piece of what matters for their vision of student learning. Imagine what a vision of student agency could do for the learning agenda of any district or school. 2, whatever it is you want for students, create that for teachers first. Remember, adult and student learning are intertwined. So if your system, like Blaine's, wants students to develop their sense of agency, then teachers need to develop their sense of agency as well. And I know that that's really different than the culture that's often at play in many schools and many systems. So I think of this English class, I think about these students and they're studying The Lord of the Flies, and I think about questions that I was asked in school as a student. I was asked a lot of questions that were really designed to get me to guess what the teacher was thinking, right? And what if instead, or in addition, I'd been asked, what's hard for you here? What are you figuring out? Teachers can learn to ask questions like those and set conditions for students to take risks, to struggle, to take control of their own learning. And if we want classrooms like those, then we need to support principals to create those conditions for teachers. 3, stay close to student learning. In this slide, you see a man named Scott, who is the high school principal at Blaine High School. And you also see Stacy Thomas, who's in the audience, and she's also the assistant superintendent in that district. And they're sitting in an English class talking to students. That's exactly what they agreed to do in this system. Principals visit classrooms regularly and talk to students about their learning experiences. And they take that information, they analyze it, and they share it with teachers. And then together, collectively, they decide what next. That's just one way to stay close to students, but remember that whatever changes the system makes for teachers and their learning, it doesn't really matter unless there's a result of something different for students in the classroom where the real work happens, right there. So I think of those students and how they're learning so much more than how to unpack the Lord of the Flies. And I ask myself, what does it take to lead a school to become a place where that kind of learning happens? And I just need to remember it's a leader who's courageous enough to get close to students and courageous enough to help teachers work in some new ways and courageous enough to imagine what would happen if our students' futures were truly limitless. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.